check that out, guys. Alrighty, so looks like our players are just about shuffled up. Time has not been called in the round quite yet, but very shortly. And I just want to kind of go over these two decks. Shardless Sultai is quite a kind of quite a throwback, to be honest. It hasn't been seeing as much play lately, although it does do better in paper Magic versus online. It doesn't show up very much online at all. But Shardless Sultai is an old school. Oh my, Ryan revealed a troublesome one there, but Shardless Sultai likes to win like a card advantage game by going long. So it has cards like Shardless Sultai. Well, I'm sorry, a Shardless Agent, which is what its namesake is. That has Cascade and flips into cards like Hymn to Turok, Ancestral Visions, Deathrite Shaman, Tarmogoyf. And in Lee's specific case, he has Grimflayer, which I really love. I tried this deck out myself. Grimflayer is super sweet. It does still Abrupt Decay and Fatal Push right now, and even Lightning Bolt sometimes. But who cares? The card is so sweet. And then Ryen Castillo on Ad Tendrils, another staple. I'm sorry, yeah, another staple like tier 1.5, tier 1 deck. It's kind of seen its ups and downs, especially with the banning of Sensei's Divining Top and Legacy. But I think it's a strong metagame choice in general. And on a Mold of 6 here, it looks like he didn't find a land. But the way that Ad Nauseam Tendrils wins is it casts a lot of different rituals, most predominantly Dark Ritual into Cabal Ritual, and then it has its key name or its key spell called Ad Nauseam, which lets you kind of cycle through the rest of your deck, just drawing a bunch of cards, losing a bunch of life because all your cards cost 1 or 0, and then you kill them with Tendrils of Agony, which has Storm. So it is a combo deck, and it's one of the best ones in Legacy. So very, very resilient and consistent, which is what you want in your combo deck. Obviously, you want a lot of redundancy, which it has. It has 2 different rituals. It also has Lion's Eye Diamond, which gives it a very explosive turns, and then it has Past in Flames, which gives it resiliency. So even if you get fizzle on parts of your combo, or you partially kill your opponent, you can always start back up the following turn. And it looks like here Ryen is kind of using the other half of his deck, which is the Ponders and the Brainstorm version, or right now obviously Ponder, to kind of search through his deck to assemble a 6 to 7 card hand that's gonna kind of have disruption, which is gonna like such as duress or cabal therapy, which is gonna let him look at Lee's hand and pick the perfect moment to start comboing off. Looks like he found a ponder off of his ponder. Ooh, wow, Leovold. Leovold's a pretty sick one against Ad Nauseam Tendrils. Now, in this particular matchup, Shardless is kind of I would say it's not favored versus Ad Nauseam Tendrils, at least in game 1 specifically, because it has very few ways to interact besides like Hymn to Turok and Force of Will. In the sideboard, it gets a few more tools, but we can talk about that. But Leovold is an exciting addition to the Shardless Sultai deck. Leovold is no stranger to Legacy at all, but to this particular deck, I think most lists are playing 1 to 2. I don't have Lee's or Ryan's deck list at the moment. I will have them shortly though. But yeah, like this is a particularly strong card on turn 2 in most matchups, especially so against the combo player. He can't cast cards like Ponder or Brainstorm efficiently or effectively even. And then on top of that, he can't actually also combo off effectively because except for through Ad Nauseam, because when he targets Lee, Lee's gonna get to draw a card. So if he draws this in some wild world, let's say that the storm count is 10 and all 10 tendrils target Lee, he's going to draw 10 cards before any of them resolve. And then if he has, let's just say he finds 3 Force of Wills, 3 blue cards, there's a potential that he lives there. So again, very, very powerful effect. It's going to allow him to kind of also dictate the way that Ryen plays the rest of this game. I mean, like he can't, like this Ponder is really just says, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put them back in any order, or shuffle. There is no draw card on this card right now. It does not even have that text with Leovold in play. So Ryan's in a bit of a spot. I mean, he's got some things. He does have a Dark Petition, and I believe that's a Cabal Therapy in his hand. It's hard to make out at the moment, but it's Cabal Ritual. So he's got Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Dark Petition, and now he's going to put his second instant or sorcery in the graveyard, which is going to turn on. Is going to turn on this Dark Petition, but it looks like he's choosing to shuffle. I thought I saw an Infernal Tutor in that hand. And see, if I'm in Ryan's position, I think that you just have to have Tutors and Rituals in your hand, plus and then Past in Flames eventually. reason being, and this is the important thing. Reason being is like you just want to get up to a high enough storm count. Like usually you want to storm for something reasonable. You want to storm for something reasonable like 8, 9. Because you don't need to reach that high level in Legacy typically. Like in this particular case, you would need 10. But if you can get up to 12, 13, that's a reasonable spot, and it's pretty easy too. So Lee's getting Gitaxian probed here. I think. Oh, it looks like he missed his trigger off of this Gitaxian probe, which is going to be fine. It's not going to cost him too many points, I hope. And if he hits a land here, that is actually big game. Any land, specifically a fetch land. Fetch land would be really good because then he's going to get this Shardless Agent going and he's going to reap a lot of benefit off of it, regardless of what he hits. I mean, it's going to be a Brainstorm, Ancestral Vision, Hymn to Turok, like, could be anything. Instead, Lee finds a Tarmogoyf, and we're going to ship in again for 4 here. So this is actually a pretty fast clock, too. There's only sorceries in the graveyard at the moment, so it's a 1/2 Tarmogoyf, but still a threat. I mean, you can't deny it. It looks like Ryen found himself a Lion's Eye Diamond, which could be close to good, or close to good enough, I should say. Oh, it looks like Lee found his fetch land, which could add a card. Yeah, exactly. Adds a card to the graveyard for Tarmogoyf, grows it to a 2/3, and it's going to be significant here. It's going to be a 3, 4, 5, 6. So he can attack for 6, but looks like instead he's going to go for a Thoughtseize, and that's probably going to be good enough to steal this game, because without a tutor, Ryen is going to be dead in the water. Unless he finds one in the top card next turn, which is possible. Unlikely, though. Yeah, it looks like he's just going to go ahead and scoop it up. He doesn't want to reveal too much about what's going on over here. The Thoughtseize could have seen quite a few different cards, but Lee can guess what his opponent is on, and I think this is so. It's a smart position for Ryen to concede. Most players would say, "Oh, why would you concede there? Like, you're not absolutely dead on next turn." But concealing information is probably part of what Ryen really wants there. Now, if I'm Lee and I thought he's my opponent, and he's playing, he has played 2 Ponders and he has a basic Swamp and a basic Island. I think the jig is up for the most part. So I kind of know what I'm looking for here, and that's why he chose to Thoughtseize rather than cast Shardless Agent. He could do both, but he led with the Thoughtseize. So instead of getting information via Shardless Agent, he got information first before casting any other spells through Thoughtseize. So again, the jig is up, I would say, but Ryan's banking on the fact that maybe there's some small percentages he can gain if Lee perhaps guesses wrong and has different sideboard options. Now, there are possible other decks that he could be playing. Food Chain, for example. Food Chain does play 1 basic Swamp and Island. It does sometimes play Ponder. It's not common. It's mostly just Brainstorm, and there's another dig spell that it's on the verge of my tongue. But anyhow, but yeah, moving into this sideboard game, Ryan's gonna want something for sure to deal with that Leovold, but then on top of that, he's going to want something to deal with these Thoughtseizes that are going to definitely come in from Lee. Either he's got him in the board, or he's got, obviously we saw the 1 in the main, but it's a hedge. Like, sometimes you just want 1 in the main because that feels right. Sometimes you want 5 or 6 in the main, or I'm sorry, 4 in the main, but like 5 or 6 type of those effects in the 75 is what I meant to say. And so it's going to be interesting kind of seeing what the dynamic is moving forward for both these players, because this is where it can get pretty interesting. Now, Ryen being on the play is incentivized here to bring in Empty the Warrens. Lee might not bring in, if he has it, Golgari Charm, because he's on the draw. It just depends. He might not think that, like, oh, is he going to have enchantments? Is he going to have creatures? Like, what should I be hedging for? And it looks like he's keeping some number of Abrupt Decay. We did see 1 at least, which is not typically a good spell in this particular matchup. It doesn't hit much, and Ryen, and as we saw in that game, Ryan's playing it pretty close to the chest. He wants to protect his Lion's Eye Diamonds, so he's not going to just play them because he has them in his hand. A, it adds to Storm, and then B, again, it's a piece of information that he can conceal until the appropriate time. Looks like he has some number of defense grids, but the thing about Shardless is it doesn't really lean too heavily on Force of Will. It beats you even without Force of Will, and Force of Will is just good backup. The primary thing that it's trying to do is it's trying to outvalue you out in a longer game. It's trying to get to turns 4, 5, and 6, have Planeswalkers in play, resolve Ancestral Visions, etc., etc. These are all extremely powerful cards when the game goes long. And clearly, Ad Nauseam Tendrils is not quite on the same axis, but in that game, we saw that that's exactly how Lee won. He made it to turns 4 or 5, and then his really powerful mid-game cards or mid-range cards took over the game. Deathrite Shaman as a turn 1 is just one of the most powerful things you could be doing in Legacy, and I think that's where most people consider what most people consider to be level 1. Like we're talking about Grixis Delver, we're talking about to an extent we're talking about like 4-color Leovold as well. I mean it leans pretty heavy on Deathrite for colors, and its other modes are just a bonus, but really it's a part. It's not exactly part of the game plan. It is certainly just a great card in every matchup, and there's a lot of other lists. I would say that. Oh, I forgot that he cast Gitaxian Pro Blaster. And so actually, yeah, if I'm Lee, I think I know what the matchup is. And he did bring in Golgari Charm, so Ryen can't actually go for Goblins safely unless he gets rid of this Gitaxian, or I mean this Golgari Charm. And there's a couple other scary cards in here. There's 2 Hymn to Turok, and that's what Lee kept. Lee kept his hand on the power of Hymn to Turok, essentially, because this Force of Will is going to get pitched to a Cabal Therapy fairly soon. Oh, is that a Black Border Underground? Yeah, I think that's 4 in Black Border. Nice. And with 2 Cabal Therapies in hand, yeah, he has to Force of Will this. So as long as Ryen, so yeah, oh, is that a Grafdigger's Cage? It's kind of a good one. He's going to go ahead and play the Grafdigger's Cage. Sweet. So, Underground Sea getting Grafdigger's Cage. Now, if Ryen does not have a second Cabal Therapy, because he definitely got to be able to cast the one in the graveyard anyways, but if he doesn't have a second Cabal Therapy, oh, that was a great draw. I think actually he could probably go off with that. There's also a, I believe that was a Defense Grid. That's kind of crazy. Ryan's thinking here. So if his hand is land, exactly, it's land, Infernal Tutor, Lion's Eye Diamond, Defense Grid, Past in Flames, Dark Ritual. Okay, so he doesn't have enough to go off with Past in Flames yet, but I think the very least he wants to do is, ooh, his hand's in danger. If he can put this he can put this Defense Grid into play. I don't think it's going to be very good, but the problem is he doesn't have like a Brainstorm type effect to protect his hand, which obviously would be ideal for him. Instead, he's going to go to 17 here, fetch maybe a basic. I know Shardless plays some non-basics. That's a Badlands. Shardless does play some non-basics, and I think Ryen is gearing up for getting hit by this Hymn to Turok, which is going to be fairly devastating. So he's going to play his Defense Grid, and then he's going to play, and then I think the potential play that he could go for. I mean, Defense Grid's probably fine here if Lee does not hit a Black Source. Does not hit a Black Source, so he's lucky. But here, the potential line here that he could go for is he could go for Infernal Tutor, get a Dark Ritual, and then play his LED, right? And then if he does get hymned here and it hits like Dark Ritual and a Past in Flames. Oh wait, this Grafdigger's Cage. Okay, I take back that entire line. Never mind. This is probably fine. I totally forgot about this Grafdigger's Cage. Yeah, Past in Flames. Past in Flames is probably, no. I think we just take this LED. These are all hard, but we probably take the LED. The Lion's Eye Diamond has such explosiveness, and it just jumps Ryen from 2 mana to 5 mana so quickly. Dark Petition was the draw for Ryen. Not unreasonable, but not enough mana yet to cast it, so it's not going to matter. Potentially, Ryen could go for again Infernal Tutor for Dark Ritual, so that he can actually have mana for this Dark Petition next turn, but it's probably not good enough. Yeah, this is kind of a tight spot. I mean, this is the power of Shardless Sultai. I mean, we're going into turn 3 here, and Ryan's hand has not developed the way certainly he wants it to. Now he has this defense grid in play, but it's not going to prove very fruitful. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, he's going to pass the turn and hope he doesn't get hit. No, looks like he's going to get hit with this Hymn to Torok, and it's going to get hit by back-to-back Hymn to Toroks at that. Just one of the hits of these two. Oh man, and with the Grafdigger's Cage in play, which is a little off camera. I guess that's why we didn't see it as much. Little off camera. So we'll see how this ends up going. So Lee and Ryen are here. All right, here's a duress. We're gonna get that other. Yeah, we're gonna get that other hymn out of his hand. So Lee doesn't have any gas. So Ryan's gonna get to. He doesn't have a win con either. He's gonna. Oh wow! Did he set that up with Brainstorm? He did. That is that's an impressive Liliana. All right, so I do have the deck list with me now, and I just want to look at kind of like the different aspects of these lists. It looks like Lee is on 2 Leah Vault, so that wasn't like an uncommon play for him. That wouldn't have been an uncommon play for him to make. And it looks like Ryen brought in Defense Grid at the very least, and empty the Warren. We'll see how this goes. All right, so there's going to be, well, here's a guy. Force of Will's the draw. Let's go ahead and discard our cards. All right, go ahead. It's another land for Ryen. But he needs a way to get rid of this Grafdigger's Cage more than anything. He doesn't look like he wants to discard. Doesn't look like he wants to discard the card that he drew. Is a land? Okay, cool. Yeah, what he really needs is a Chain of Vapor. Cabal Therapy is going to be a reasonable bin. Lee doesn't have a hand. Ryen just has to keep it. And this defense grid is actually a good idea to bring these in, but the problem is I think it's the wrong blue deck. Like you expect that Shardless is going to have a lot of counter spells, and it has four Force of Will, but I think that's pretty much it. I'll look at the sideboard really quickly. Looks like he doesn't bring in. Yeah, looks like he could bring in 2 Flusterstorm, but oh man, Wasteland the blue. That's probably close to game here. It's going to make him discard one of his last cards. It's an island. It's going to ship in with the Baleful Strix, and this is the slow death. This is the win that Shardless wants. This is the kind of way it is. Basically, a lot of people like to describe it this way: blue Jund. Oh wow, that's a Shardless agent. That's pretty good. All right. All right, puts a Deathrite Shaman into play, and then it's gonna make Ryen discard his last card, which is Ponder. Pretty unfortunate turn of events here, and he's holding on to this Dark Ritual for dear life, but there's not a lot that's gonna save him here. He's on a pretty short clock now, taking 5 a turn. There's a lot of spells in that graveyard, and the first one that's gonna go is Past in Flames for sure, just in case Ryen can get out of outside of this Grafdigger's Cage, which potentially he can. Potentially. There's another land. One of the few blue decks that also gets to play basics. Or I guess not one of the few, but one of the blue decks. And this is a 3-turn clock with Lily continually ticking up. What are we eating? Gonna eat Past in Flames. Yeah, doesn't want to take the risk. I agree with that. And Lee's just finding nothing but lands off the top here. All right, that was a duress that Ryen discarded, by the way. The glare is making it a little difficult to see, but that is a duress. Ryen goes down to 5 here, and he's like, yeah, no outs. Wow, that was fast. That's a bad matchup for Shardless, I feel. So, that being said, that is the end of this particular match. I will try to get another match for you guys. Give us just a moment, and then we'll put you on a small commercial break, and we'll be back shortly. Thanks, guys.